What an introduction. National superstar, hey? So firstly, thank you to everyone that made the effort to come out this morning, because I know it's hard to find a park and it's hard to come out before work, so I appreciate everyone who's here. There's a few faces that are familiar and some that are not so familiar. So I guess that, like Richard said, I'm here to talk about the good stuff and the bad stuff. I think that's the focus of these kind of startup stories, is to talk about all of the raw things and all of the good things about running a business. So to start off, to give some context to Crave and where it all began, about 3.5 years ago, I was still working in hospitality. So my background was just working at cafes and restaurants in Newcastle. I always really loved hospitality and loved the industry, and eventually wanted to start up my own cafe or restaurant. So that was kind of my life goal, was to run my own business in hospitality. I found myself working for a cafe owner that wasn't so nice, and decided that I never wanted to work in hospitality ever again, because it was really challenging to work for someone that didn't have the same principles and values that I felt like I had in a workplace. So I ended up quitting my full-time job and wondering what the hell I was going to do with my life. So I had some downtime where serendipitously I'd actually started posting on this Instagram page called Crave Newcastle, where I was just sharing photos of food from cafes and restaurants that I was eating out at. And it started getting a bit of traction where people were following it, and I was tagging local businesses and started getting approached by businesses to actually be featured on the page as well. So there was a time when it was just merely a hobby, where I didn't really think it would be anything that it is today. But I had a business approach me and asked to have a paid feature on the page, which is something that I'd never even thought would ever happen. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, what do I charge for something like this? If I'm going to send a photographer out to have this content shot professionally and then have it featured to this audience, what do you even charge for that? So I started Googling it and realising that it's actually quite common in places like Sydney and Melbourne and other areas that have big food followings. They're a little bit more advanced than Newcastle, to have bloggers and influencers come out and do sponsored content like that. So I remember feeling like I was super out of my depth, because I was like, I'm not a professional photographer. I'm going to have to find someone to help me out and do this. But the first feature I ever went to that was just an organic feature, I remember going with my iPhone and taking a friend with me, my housemate, because I didn't want to go by myself. And I took a photo with my phone and walked out and was just like, oh my goodness, that was the most unprofessional feeling of my life. I really need to go out and get myself a professional camera if I'm going to actually try and turn this into anything that's more than just a hobby. So I went out, bought myself a camera, and it just kind of started faking it till I made it, I guess, taking photos of myself, and then I ended up connecting with a friend who is a professional photographer who started coming along to the features with me. And from that moment is kind of where it started feeling like a real business. Like I had my first ever staff member. We were going out and featuring lots of places in Newcastle, getting a lot of traction behind the page, because we were one of the first food guides in Newcastle, which was a great advantage point. And we started getting a really good following. So once the page hit about 10,000 is when it really started to take off. We started getting a lot of people using our hashtag Crave Newcastle, wanting to be featured. We had a lot of businesses that were reaching out to us, and there was some really good traction going. So one of the clients that was our first ever agency client, so just to step back a little bit, there's now today 3 faces of Crave. There's the Instagram page Crave Newcastle, where it all kind of grew from. There's Crave New Media, which is the agency that stemmed from there afterwards, and then there's the Crave app, which launched 12 months ago. So coming into Crave New Media, so our first ever agency client was PJ, that owns Blue Door, actually, who I had the privilege of meeting through a bit of an unusual encounter, where I went to his cafe when it first opened up from Juicy Beans as a customer, and I didn't have a very good experience. And I was thinking to myself, I want to feature them, but if people come because of my feature and have a bad experience, that puts me in this strange point where I was like, I wanted to give him feedback, but in a really constructive way. So I ended up sending him an Instagram message through Crave and just saying, we came out and to feature you. It wasn't terrible, but I wanted to give you some pointers on how it could have been better. My friend and I ordered the same meal and they looked completely different, things like that. So the service and everything else was great. And he ended up messaged me back through Instagram page saying, thank you so much for privately messaging me and not just publicly like slamming us. What's your number? I want to give you a call. So ended up chatting with him on the phone, and he had invited me out to breakfast to come and meet him properly. He was like, I just want you to know how much I appreciate the fact that you handle this in a constructive way, sent me a private message rather than just like slamming me all over Crave. He was just like, I really love what you've done with Crave. Do you want to do the same thing for my Instagram? And I was just like shocked, because I was like, how did this like negative encounter go to something where he's now asking me to work for him or work with him? And I remember thinking to myself, there was no way in hell I wanted to do it, because I knew how much time and energy I was putting into Crave Newcastle and all the content and the time that goes behind running an Instagram page or any social media pages. And I was like, there's no way, like I'm not interested, thank you, but no thank you. And it was like a month of him poking and prodding me to try and get me to run this Instagram account that I finally caved. I remember saying to him, I was like, in total transparency, how much do you even want to charge me for this? Like, how much should I charge you for this? And he was just like, oh, I don't know, there's like this girl that thinks she's an influencer and thinks that she wants to run it. She's charging me like $400 a week for it. How about we start with that? And I was just like, God, all right, $400 a week sounds great. So ended up really naturally finding our first agency client, and we were going out there for photo shoots, we were doing strategy sessions with them. And when we first took on that Instagram page for Blue Door, they had 360 followers. And if any of you guys know about Blue Door's page now, there's over 20,000 followers. And that was from a period of about a year and a half that we really rapidly grew that. And it was just about finding the right time where hospitality businesses really needed to start advertising themselves, or any business, in a more digital way, which is social media. And it's about content creation and momentum and growing your audience. And we kind of fell into that at the perfect time to help PJ do that. So that was one of the biggest accounts that we'd ever grown, especially early days when I never even thought I'd be running social media accounts. And then from there, that's where Crave New Media really launched. So we started getting approached by other businesses that PJ had referred us to, where we weren't even really in the market to pick up new clients. Like, we weren't really actively looking to grow it. It was just myself and another colleague that worked with me. And all of a sudden we were getting, all of a sudden before we knew it, we had like 5 or 6 accounts. And I was like, all right, I need more help. I need more people to help me run these accounts. And it's so funny to look back on now, because we have a bit of a strategy behind it now, where it's like 6 social media accounts to 1 full-time account manager. And that's like a nice way to run it. Whereas previously, I look back now, it was like all 4 of us looking after all of the accounts, just trying to like work out how we could manage it all. And there was no kind of like one dedicated account manager. And it's through looking back on things like that and seeing how flawed that system was, to now finding a process that actually works, where I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how we did it before and how we didn't just have like complete mayhem. But we grew the agency from 2 of us to, there was, I think, in about a period of 6 to 8 months, I think there was like about a team of 5 or 6. So it grew pretty quickly and rapidly without me even meaning for it to. And before I knew it, so we used to have our office in Hunter Street. And before I knew it, we would move from our co-working space of 2 of us to a bigger office that had 3 of us. And then like 8 months later, an even bigger office in Mayfield that had almost 10 of us. And it just grew so quickly without any of us really anticipating for it to be the company that it was. But in saying that, that came with so much responsibility that I guess that previously was never expecting to have on my shoulders. So managing a team of 8 to 10 staff is something that is, you don't learn about that at school. Like you can't prepare yourself for the responsibility that comes with, in terms of that's right, looking after a team of people that their job and their career and their life is on your shoulders. So there's been so many times where I've looked back and thought to myself that it was all too much, and that there was times when I felt like it, with the agency especially, where I guess a bit of a context to this is that the app was an idea. So Crave is an app that helps people to discover cafes and restaurants. Hello. So this is Gabby. Gabby's one of the girls that works for us as well. Just to show you guys a bit of hands of the people that work for me. Michelle as well. who's here, and Caitlin, who's our amazing photographer. So these are some Crave faces. So yeah, in terms of the app, in case anyone doesn't know about it or has only just briefly heard about it, it's a dish-based discovery tool that helps customers find cafes and restaurants near them in a really visual way based on dishes. So you swipe left and right through photos of dishes, and if you like the look of it, you swipe right. If you don't like it, you swipe left. So quite similar to Tinder, but for food. So this idea came to me about 2 years ago now, quite randomly. I was doing some work with my older brother's company. He runs a digital agency, and I was commuting back and forth from Newcastle to Sydney and spending a lot of time down there working with him, and I would stay with him during the week instead of having to drive back and forth from Sydney. So anyway, we were just brainstorming one night in his lounge room and talking about these ideas of what I could do with Crave. If there's anything, this is before Crave really had taken off and become anything of a business. And I was talking about how I thought that I loved about how Instagram was such a visual way to discover food, but there was just no way to personalise it. And this idea of Tinder for food literally just came to me like that. And we started looking up on Google to see if it existed, looking it up on the App Store, and nothing else was like it. And he was just like, it's a really good idea, you should do it. And I was just like, yeah, I think I should do it. I don't think anyone else is doing it, so why not? And that's where the idea all came from. So fast track, 2 years later, the app is now, as of yesterday, been launched for 12 months. So yesterday was our first birthday since launching the app, which is crazy to think about how quickly the last 12 months has gone. But in terms of what happened with creating an agency and having that business running, but then also creating another business alongside it, which I didn't really expect would be the size that it is, that's, I guess, where the challenges started coming into play, where I felt like I had grown Crave quite organically to be like a soft momentum of a business where, you know, we had our clients in Newcastle. There wasn't any hopes of, you know, becoming this international business. It was just, you know, looking after our Newcastle clients and looking after our Newcastle team. And then all of a sudden I had this huge responsibility to, well, not responsibility, it's something that I wanted to do, but to develop this other app. And if anyone knows anything about app development, it's not cheap. I remember when I first started looking into it, we met with some Sydney agencies that were quoting us $150,000 to just build iOS, like not even Android. And trust me, if you launch an app and you just have one platform, people get mad. They want both. So I was like, all right, it's going to cost me like over $200,000 to build this app. So I remember thinking about how the hell I was going to get that money. I really wanted to do it. I'm in a very fortunate position where my two oldest brothers are very tech savvy, and my middle brother is a software engineer who had never actually built an app before, but was working on a project with another client for my other brother's agency where they were actually building an app. So I was like, well, you can guinea pig project that one. And if it works out, then let's talk about building Crave. So it ended up becoming quite serendipitous that as that client project finished up, I had some time free and we could start working on Crave. So my brother started developing this app. I actually spent some time in Bali, which is super random. Flew over to Bali with a Melbourne app developer. They call themselves digital natives, but they just drift off to Bali or somewhere tropical and work from there for a few months. And I ended up doing the same thing, and it was an incredible experience. So I spent 2 weeks in Bali developing this prototype for this app that you couldn't download. It was just on a test pilot device, which was like on my phone. But it was enough of a concept to be able to come back to Newcastle and start pitching it to people. So I remember being so excited when there was an actual app that I could like swipe left and right on dishes, and it looked somewhat what I'd hoped it would be for Crave. So came back to Newcastle and I set myself a goal to get 50 businesses on board to sign up for the app before we launch, because it's kind of like that chicken and the egg where if you don't have business, if you need businesses on there to get people to want to use the app, because you can't get users and then jump on and there's no businesses, but then businesses don't want to get on board when there's no users. So it's kind of like, which one do you approach first? We approached the businesses first to try and get them to sign up. And this was, at this stage, just a pilot of an app. Like there was no actual way to download it. So I was like, I need to get money to do that. I knew that I needed about $20,000 to develop the bare minimum, which is like the MVP of the app, to actually launch it for people to be able to use it. So that was what I set my goal to do, and it was actually my brother who suggested to get businesses to sign up for a year up front to be advertised for 12 months on Crave. And I was like, that's such a good idea, because that means I can use that $20,000 to then build the thing before it launches, and hopefully then we can get some traction. So I was like, I'll aim high, like let's get 50 businesses to sign up for it, because that's amazing. The subscription, the introductory offer was $1,200 for 12 months. It included all the photography, the advertising, and I was like, I reckon we can get 50 businesses on board. And anyway, I started pitching, and it was about 6 months, actually probably not that long, it was probably about 4 months process from coming back from Bali with this prototype to lining up all these meetings with hospitality businesses to tell them about this idea that I had. And it was literally me sitting down, having coffee with them and being like, hey, I have this idea that is like Tinder for food. You've seen what I've done with the Instagram account. I think this is going to be amazing for your business. Would you like to sign up for a year? It's a small price of $1,200. And I remember businesses just being like, either having absolutely no idea what I was creating. There were some that not quite so tech savvy that were like, really needed me to explain the idea, and I'm glad I had that prototype to actually show them what it would look like. I was like, it'll connect your Instagram, it'll showcase your dishes, it's not a business listing, trying to promote all these key selling points that was enough to get them across the line to sign up for a product that had not even launched yet. And we ended up having 18 businesses sign up for 12 months before the app even launched. And I remember it wasn't what I wanted. I wanted the 50, but I was so stoked that 18 businesses had put faith in me to pay for a product up front that literally I was just like, I'm sorry you can't even download it until August 1st. But when you can download it, it'll be a great moment. So yeah, that gave us enough money to then, get stuck into actually getting the product developed. And August 1st, 2017 was when the app officially launched. And I remember all of our team, we had like this little countdown whiteboard on the office for like a month, where I was like, 31 days till the app launches, 30 days till the app launches, for such a long time. And I remember thinking, when it actually launches, it's gonna be the most exciting moment ever. But it was just like, we were kind of like, okay, cool, people can download it now. Why are people not downloading it? Because it was just like our team that had access to it until we actually had this launch party. So there was like this massive high when we could finally look it up on the App Store and people started downloading it. It was so exciting because we gave we threw this huge party at the Edwards where we invited all of our clients to sign up for the app. We had all of my team and my family, and it was just like this huge celebration of this app that was finally available to download. And it was just such an exciting moment to have that all come to life and come into fruition with something that was an idea that's now available to actually use. So take that back 12 months ago, I had this just like crazy moment yesterday where I was like, I cannot believe 12 months ago today, that's when we were launching this, and so much has happened in the last year. So my mindset shifted from being 80% of me focused to this agency in Newcastle, where I felt like at times it was so challenging that it almost made me want to like tap out, not do it anymore, because it was so stressful, to then feeling like, I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen this, it's like a photo of a guy chipping away under a tunnel, and he's been chipping for hours, and there's like diamonds at the end of the tunnel, but he like puts his pick down and walks away, and he's like that close to chipping away at it. I remember seeing this at this moment where I felt exactly like that. I was just like, I can't keep going. I feel like I'm ready to give up on this. And I was just like, but I might be that close to diamonds. I need to keep going. I need to keep doing this. I remember having a phone call with one of my, pardon me, one of my advisors. Yeah, I actually woke up sick this morning, so sorry about the croaky voice and coughing. So I woke up one morning and just felt like absolute crap, where I was just like, this is it. I can't do it anymore. I'm not strong enough to get through this, because it's really hard to run two businesses. It's hard to run one business, let alone two. So I remember thinking to myself that I didn't want to do it anymore, and I was just like ready to tap out. And it was the lowest point I've ever had, that had just come from, some really crazy highs that you have with running a business to then these really low moments. And I remember having this really raw conversation with one of my advisors where I was just in tears, I could barely speak, and I was just like, I just don't think I can keep doing it. And he was just like, yes, you can. Yes, you can keep doing it. I know you think you can't, but you just need to just suck it up and wake up tomorrow morning, get some sleep tonight, and trust me, you'll call me tomorrow and you'll feel a lot better. And I remember I went out and drove out to the beach in Newcastle and sat there for hours and hours, just like thinking to myself about what I would do with my life if I wasn't doing Crave. And that scenario was like literally nothing. I was like, what do I do if I'm not doing Crave? I don't know. So there's not much of a happy picture there anyway. So if I can just like pull myself back together and continue doing this, then this scenario of whatever this could be looks a lot better than that one. So pulling myself back together and thinking about you know, how we could get through some of these challenging things that we're facing. I remember having like a really honest conversation with even Michelle, who's our business development director, where I was just like, this is just crazy, like how are we going to get through this? And you were just like, we'll be fine. Trust me, I know we've got this, we'll get through it. And then literally like a month later, I got sent this link from one of my advisors that was for a program called Launch, which is an American incubator program where the prize is $100,000 and a seat in their incubator program in Silicon Valley in San Fran. And him flicking me the link, telling me to apply, and I was just like, it's a really great prize. If I win it, that's pretty amazing. If I don't, then I don't have much to lose. So I applied for this pitching competition in Sydney, and I remember getting an email back saying, congratulations, you've been accepted to be interviewed to pitch in Sydney. So I was like, all right, I'm one step closer to possibly getting into this. And it was quite like a drawn out process from that email to then actually finding out that I was pitching. So the competition was like 3 weeks later, and they told me that if my interview went well and I got into it, I'd find out like that a few days later on the Tuesday. Anyway, it got to the Tuesday, I hadn't heard anything. Wednesday passed, I hadn't heard anything. Thursday passed, and I still hadn't heard anything. And I was like, damn it, I didn't get in. That's so disappointing. And then on like the Thursday afternoon, when it's all kicked off on the very next Wednesday, I got an email saying, congratulations, you've been selected. Please come to Sydney and practice your pitch with us before you go on the stage. So how are we going for time, by the way? Good? So drove to Sydney. People from America have no idea where Newcastle is, by the way. They don't realise we're 2 hours away from Sydney. And I had to like drive all the way down there for a really last minute pitching practice. And from that moment, they were deciding if you needed more practice or if you were ready to get on the stage and pitch. And I heard some other people pitch and they were pretty good. And I was like, yeah, feeling pretty confident about being able to get up and pitch alongside them and hopefully be in with like a shot to actually win this. And I was the only business out of all 4 that I heard that didn't have to come back again and practice again. So I was like, that's awesome, like that's a good sign. Anyway, from that moment of going down there to then pitching on the Wednesday, I had a few great opportunities to meet with the guy that's running all of this. His name's Jason Calacanis. He's an American angel investor who has invested in companies like Dropbox, Uber, Fitbit. Those are just some of the incredibly huge companies in his portfolio. And I've been listening to his podcast for a while and been really impressed by him. But now all of a sudden had this opportunity to actually meet him and have him, you know, possibly invest in my company as well and then take me to America. And I remember thinking that it was like too far away to actually see it ever come to life. I was like, there's no way out of all these people that are pitching, Crave's gonna get to go to America. But then all of these moments happened where I felt like closer and closer. So he invited 3 out of the 28 people pitching to pitch to a room full of like 50 angel investors. So he was running this course called Angel University where investors are learning about getting into investing and what questions to ask startups. And it was like the reverse of anything I'd ever experienced before, because usually it was me being critiqued and my pitch being critiqued, and all of a sudden it was like me pitching to them and then them getting critiqued. So it was a really great opportunity to be able to see the reverse of it. And after I pitched to this room, we all went to this dinner afterwards and we're asking Jason these questions about, it was a bit of like an open Q&A and about American business versus Australian business. And I asked him the question of all the companies that have pitched to you that you have not invested in, who do you regret the most? And he told me that he had coffee with the founder of Twitter in America, and he pitched him this idea of Twitter, and Jason said to him, I think it's a stupid idea, and if anyone uses this platform, it'll be a platform full of idiots. And he goes, and it is a platform full of idiots. To this day, it's a platform full of idiots, but it's worth billions of dollars, and I'm not an investor in that platform of idiots. And I was just like, that was my way of saying to him, like, if you don't invest in Crave, you're going to regret it. But I was shocked by his answer, because I was just like, well, you really missed out on that one, didn't you? But it was really amazing to hear that he had this opportunity to invest in Twitter, really deeply regretted it, and then afterwards someone went to ask him another question. He was like, before we move on from this next question, I want to talk about Jess's pitch yesterday. And I wasn't expecting him to say anything. It was actually that day. He said that when he heard me pitch, because my slide presentation had me talking, but then also like the app moving and zooming in as I talked, and he said that the synchronicity of me speaking to my presentation was on par with like Steve Jobs. And he just said that, and it was just like silence in the room. My stomach dropped. I was just like, did he just say that? I was just like absolutely shocked to hear that he'd said that. He'd given me such a huge compliment that I just was speechless, and then everyone like stood up and just started clapping, and I was just like, oh my god, what is happening right now? I can't believe I just got this compliment from Jason about my pitch apparently being on par with Steve Jobs. Oh my goodness, this has got to be a good sign. Maybe he actually thinks Crave's pretty amazing. So anyway, the very next night I came back to Newcastle after that, and then I got an email the next afternoon asking me to come to Sydney for a 9 p.m. private dinner at Esther in Sydney, which is an incredible restaurant. I remember getting this email, and I just like turned around to all my team and I was like, oh my God, I just got this email from Jason asking me to go to this private dinner. And they were just like, you gonna go? I was just like, yep, I'm just gonna get in the car right now and start heading down to Sydney because it's like a 2-hour trip away. Pardon me. So anyway, I was expecting there to be quite a few people at this restaurant. Ended up being that there was only like 8 of us. So there was one other startup, myself, and then Jason, his other like head investor, and then 2 private friends of his, and then this famous basketball player whose name has escaped me now, but apparently he's a big deal. I didn't know who he was. Anyway, it was crazy because it was my opportunity to, for me, actually show him who I am as a person. So with the whole process before, it had been very much like people flew from all around Australia to see this guy and meet this guy. Like he's like the Kylie Jenner of business world. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I think he's an amazing guy, but I'm not going to fangirl over him because I feel like it's probably not the approach that he would appreciate anyway. So for me to be able to get a private dinner with him to talk to him was amazing, because it meant that I could actually like show him who I am as a person and talk to him as a real person, because at the end of the day, he still goes to sleep at night, he still eats breakfast in the morning, he's a regular person. So it was an amazing dinner. I ended up being there till like almost midnight talking to him. And then the next day I had to get up on stage and actually pitch. So long story short, Crave ended up getting selected to go to America. We won $100,000, and I'm going from November till February this year, which is now completely done a 180 on what I thought our 12-month plan was in Australia. Michelle's helping us roll out across Australia, staying here and doing that, but we had like a solid 12-month plan just to roll out across Australia. And all of a sudden I was like, all right guys, go to America now. Newcastle to America. And now I'm going over to launch this app to a market that is insanely bigger than Australia. I have no idea what to expect, but it's literally that moment of, if I had have put my pick down and stopped digging through the tunnel, I would have missed out on this huge opportunity. And I remember saying to you that I didn't think I was ready to like go to Sydney either. I was just like, the week before I was like, I really, really don't want to do this. Like, I just don't feel like, how can I go to Sydney and talk about how amazing Crave is when I don't even feel like I'm like in the mindset to want to talk about Crave at all? And you were just like, suck it up, you're going to Sydney, you'll be fine. And now all of this has happened because of it. So I guess that's probably the highest of highs that I've ever had and ever experienced. But I mean, even in saying that, this huge feat of us winning this competition and getting this huge investment and going to America has it now still even come with its challenges, because I feel like it's like this incredible opportunity for me to go overseas and be able to launch Crave to America. But then this little voice in the back of my head is telling me that like I'm not ready for that yet. And I think that, you know, give me a week and I'll be excited again, and I'll be ready to go over. But like just literally this week, I've been calling a few close friends and just being like, I just really feel like I like my life in Australia. And I think that once you go to America and launch your product over there and you launch to that market, it's really hard to dial back. And it's like, how am I going to be able to come back to Australia and just like, go out for dinner with some of my girlfriends that I want to go out for dinner with when I'm, in America trying to gain traction and launch this product over there. And they were just like, you're just being ridiculous. Like, if you go to America, you can come back, everything in Australia will still be exactly the same. You're not missing out on anything. Just go over because it'll be amazing. So I know that it will be amazing, and I know it's going to be an amazing experience, but even those kind of like crazy high moments still come with me feeling like self-doubt and feeling like I personally am not ready for it, even though I know Crave is ready for it. So I guess I wanted to open up the opportunity for anyone to ask questions about my journey. I've kind of told you from the very start to where we are now, which is apparently going to America to launch Crave. But yeah, there's kind of an opportunity now to ask me all the questions you want to ask, if there are any, because I literally am an open book. And if you have any questions about running a business or starting it up or the challenges, like, please feel free to ask away, because now's the opportunity to do so. So. Don't all jump at once. Yes.
During when you were working on Crave, did
yeah.
you have any other, like starting out, did you have any other side passions that you were working into? And did it ever get to a point where you said, okay, I need to sacrifice all this and feed all my energy just into the one?
Yeah, so I think I was in a really unique position where I had like just quit my job. So I literally had nothing else but time to put into Crave and try and turn it into something. But what I would recommend is I have been in so many situations where I've been talking to startups or other founders where they're still working a full-time job and trying to run their startup. And it is the most challenging thing ever to do, and the most like scary thing to do is to quit that job, to fall into paying yourself nothing and trying to start this business up. But what I would say is, like, if you have the courage to do it, do that, because it's the only way that I feel like I ever would have been able to do Crave is by actually having no other thing to fall back on. Like, I was like, I kind of have to make this work because I have nothing else. And if I do, it just means that I just go back to a regular job anyway. So unless it, like, there was one other company that I kind of started before Crave, before protein balls became popular and trendy. I decided to start making protein balls, and I was selling them at my local gyms. And I was really into like making and baking raw treats. The business is called All Natural, and I remember thinking to myself that it would be the greatest thing ever. And then I started doing it, and I absolutely hated it. It was like this thing that I had loved doing, which was making like raw treats. But the reality of it was me waking up really early for hours and hours rolling these balls that I then go and sell to people. And they were like, really, $4 for a ball? And I'm just like, but it's organic and it's natural and I spent hours making it, please pay $4. And it was just like, I just turned this hobby into this business that I absolutely hated doing. So I remember getting out of that because I was just like, I could keep going down that road and trying to like, turn this into a company or a business that's actually profitable, and it was doing really well. That was what was stressful about it, because I was just like, I have this moment right now where I need to pick if I want to do this or not, because if it does really well, it takes off, I don't want to hate my job for the rest of my life. So I scrapped that, kept working hospitality, and then like about a year later found Crave. So if I was to put myself in your shoes, if you're working another job and you're wanting to start putting more time into something else, I would say like the only way I would have been able to do Crave is by having all that time to dedicate to it, because without that, you kind of have this like you're half in, you're half out. It's like, if this doesn't work out, then at least I've got this, but then the chances are that might not work out because of that mindset. So yeah, I think if that's what the question was that you're coming at, whether or not you should take that leap of faith, I would say yes. I hope it pays off, because it's the only opportunity to really try 110% into something, because otherwise it's kind of like that cushiony padding that you can fall back on, which is your other job. But yeah. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay, good. Anybody else have any questions? Yeah.
How have you navigated, I guess, that skill with like management and leadership? Did that come really naturally, or did you find yourself being like, crap, I have to manage all these people, or I've got to be the boss, and there might be people that are more experienced or older than me? Like, how have you navigated?
The latter, so not the first one. I feel like I'm kind of, I look at some really successful business owners and I'm like, I think they're successful because they're like ruthless and they don't care about other people. And that was one of my old bosses, and I was just like, if that makes them successful, then I don't want to be successful. I want to be the nicer person that actually likes my team that I work with. And that for me was challenging at times because I'm quite young, and a lot of the team that work for me are young as well. It was kind of trying to manage that relationship between friendship and work. So there was times when I found that really difficult, where I was just like, all right, I'm talking about, you know, what we got up to on the weekend and we're having a great chat. Now all of a sudden I need to talk to you about how you really like stuffed up this account and now our client's really mad and I think we're going to lose them. And it was really challenging switching from the two, where it was like friendship versus discipline and like professionalism. So no one in my experience can like just be an absolute natural at that. I think it does come with working in a role where you're given that responsibility to learn from that, but I'd never been given that before. It was just really new to me, where all of a sudden I was managing a team of people and I had to be their boss. And there has been huge challenges with that, where I've really struggled with it. And to be totally transparent, there's team members that are not working with me anymore because we couldn't fight past that. Where for me, I was like, I can't get past this relationship where you clearly don't have respect for me because you're older and you see that the things that I'm doing you don't agree with. So we just mutually agreed to just part ways, because we knew that it wasn't good for our professional relationship or our friendship to continue trying to like make it work, because it just wasn't working. Both of us weren't happy. So there's been times where it was like that, where, you know, the only solution was we should probably not work together because clearly this relationship is never going to gel. And then there's been other situations where I feel like it's just been the best thing ever. Like I have a team of people that I would, you know, go out for drinks with on the weekend or get coffee with in the morning because I genuinely love them as people and want to spend time with them. And that's where I always wanted to get to with the business, is having that relationship too, because I think that that's when you have people that want to support you and would, you know, tough out those hard times with you, because they actually care about you as people, not just as a boss or, you know, I come to work, you pay me, I go home. So I think it's kind of something that I've learned along the way of how to balance that, of being a normal person that didn't know anything about running a company to all of a sudden having to manage like 10 people. But it's come with its challenges, but I think it's just something that you do actually learn along the way. I also did a lot of Google searching about like, okay, how do I manage this if someone comes to me with this question and is not happy with this? And Google helps. and then also like talking to other people that I have mentors that I have run so many questions by, where I'm just like, this is this challenging situation, I have no idea how to deal with it. And they've always been able to offer advice and give insight into it because they have already experienced it. So it's like a big thing that I didn't even mention in my talk, is that I think the only reason why I've been able to get through this is by, you know, having people like my mum to call and my older brothers and my mentors, where I'm just like, help, I have no idea what to do, please give me some advice. And that has been huge. So if you have anyone around you that you feel like you can ask those kind of questions to, it has been the best thing ever, because my kind of philosophy now is I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I want to like bring people on board that are more skilled and more advanced than me. Hiring Michelle late last year has completely changed my company. I went from doing all the business development myself, where I was like, you know, booking all the meetings, trying to get new contacts, where I was like, you know what, I am one person, this is growing so slowly with just me doing it. I need to find someone to bring on to do this as their full-time job. We went from having 18 businesses on the app to how many months later? Like 6 months later, having almost 100. Just literally from having someone dedicated to that role. Who also is another thing, is like with businesses that usually meet me, because I'm so young, I think I found a lot of challenges with them taking me seriously, where they'd be like, so how old are you again? And I'm just like, the reason why we're having this meeting right now is because I'm young, you're not, you don't know what you're talking about with social media and I do. Please just listen to me and know that I know what I'm doing. So it's funny because we'll go to meetings now and Michelle is like the credible person that will like be, that will just like trust that what she says is like gospel, and I'm just there just like, yeah, that's good, you both have no idea about social media, that's fine, but at least you're able to get them the contract signed in like three minutes, when I've been trying to hack at this client for like a year. But I'm like, that's fine, that's nothing I can change. But it's been an amazing dynamic. For when we first started up going to meetings together, where it was just like, just client after client after client, where I was just like, this is great. All I had to do was either just like age myself to have them take me seriously, or find someone incredible like you to have that kind of, that extra help where eventually, like we don't really go to that many meetings anymore. Michelle just goes out, wins all these clients for us, and it's just amazing to see someone dedicated to that role that had more experience than I did. And it's come with years and years of networking and relationships to have that, where it would have been me in 20 years, like literally 20 years of me to try and develop those relationships and grow that to get 100 businesses in like that amount of time. So yeah, knowing when you need to hire and find someone else that's more skilled is a great thing to do, because it has completely transformed my whole company doing that. So yeah, I think that's the key thing to note as well, is that there's heaps of opportunities where I feel like you know, even with this Launch Accelerator program, I feel like a lot of the people that I was pitching alongside of, the reason why they started their business is because they're like massive tech heads, love coding, have built these products because they're just like, this is awesome, I got to like develop for like, you know, 10 years straight, now here's my product. I have no idea about tech, I have no idea about that side of it. I was just really passionate about solving this problem for hospitality and for customers. And I think that's why I was selected as one of the businesses to go to America, is because they were like, Jason ended up saying, he was like, this go right here is why you invest in founders, not product, because every product can be replicated. You can come in, someone will have more money and more team, and they can replicate your product like that, but you can't replicate a founder. And that's what that moment there was like, this key thing where I was like, that is so true, because there's so many people that could see what I'm doing with Crave and just, you know, go launch it in another country before us, and all of a sudden Crave is null and void. But it wouldn't matter, because the team behind Crave and what we've done is the reason why these businesses have chosen to support us before we even had an app to download. Through all of that is because they believed in us as individuals. And it's literally like the advice that Jason gave to these angel investors was, you're investing in people. Like, you think you're investing in their business and their product, you're not, because at the end of the day, if one of the founders taps out and doesn't do it anymore and the whole business turns to, you know, dust, then there's your investment gone. You need to be sure that you're investing in the right people rather than the right product. And I thought that was really interesting, because before that, I'd always thought that, you know, if you're an investor, you're investing in someone's business, and you need to be talking about all your traction and all of the, you know, the progress that you've had and how much money you're making, but it's not. It's really about the founders and whether or not they can actually get through that journey to make this business successful. Does anyone else have any questions that they wanted to ask before we wrap up? Yes. Yes.
So, the fact that it is startup stories,
yes,
you're saying that they invest in people, and it's very interesting how a lot of founders have a story.
Yeah.
And that's because they find problems that need solving. So I guess, is there any like book recommendations that kind of influenced or inspired you on your journey that you could recommend to others?
There's a book called Do Cool Shit. I highly recommend it. I think that book is about, I think the tagline is like, quit your day job, start up a business, and have a great life, or something like that. And while that's short and sweet and very inaccurate in representation of how many startups actually fail, it was a good book to read. But I think I actually really like podcasts, so I listen to podcasts more than I like reading, because I find that listening when I drive into city and stuff like that helps use my time resourcely. Yes, the audiobooks, there you go. So I don't know, again, really cliche to say, but there's a podcast called Startup. And have you heard of it? It's great, you'll love it. It's just literally about this guy's journey from quitting his incredibly like well-paying day job to starting up this business doing podcasting, and it tells his like full raw story. And I thought it was so great, because I was listening to it even on my drive back from Sydney last night, and I was just like, I think I should start recording my conversations that I have with people, because it's really similar to what he's now making millions of dollars doing, podcasting, talking about all this highs and lows of business that you just don't hear about. So yeah, there you go. So this is the start of my podcast series. But yeah, so Startups, it was a really good podcast. Yeah, and also TED Talks for Business. I like that one too. Yeah. Any other questions from anyone?
All right, on that note,
yeah,
we're pushing time.
Yeah.
So would everyone please join me in thanking Jess?